How's it going, everyone? I am Matt, and I'm here to talk a little bit about time management today. Um, just a quick intro about myself. I do work as a full-time data analyst. I picked up game dev or Godot in about February of 2024 and just absolutely fell in love with the engine. And over about 2 months, really felt like I was kind of ready to transition to working on a project and set out with a goal of I wanted to make a full game release on Steam within 1 year. So I started out in April of 2024. I knew that I wanted to make a retro online and local multiplayer party game. So that game eventually became Bubble Battle, which, if you're familiar with Balloon Fight, pretty similar to Balloon Fight, a little bit of a clone, but it does have multiplayer that everyone has been wanting for that game since the 80s. So I'm sure that was on top of everyone's mind. But it was a bit of a process to implement online multiplayer, so I was a little bit naive thinking that that would be something that I should do for my first game. So I might recommend maybe not doing online multiplayer for your first game. So this talk is going to be, I'll be sharing some of the best practices that you can do to be really efficient and effective with your time and work to get your game released on time or form habits necessary to establish a game development process that will help you develop prototypes to where you can then work into making a full game. This talk will be primarily for part-time developers, but if you are a full-time developer or you work with a team, you can certainly benefit from some of this as well. So here's the problem. Game dev is incredibly stressful and overwhelming. Throw in things like a full-time job, kids, or other life responsibilities, and can really start to weigh you down. Focus is difficult. Today we have so many things competing for our attention. So without focusing on quality, consistency, and optimizing our process, it can be really easy to feel like you're constantly behind or just getting nowhere. So the goal is to break that cycle and take control of your day, get that game released on time, or at least establish a process to where you can find the right prototype that will turn into that game. We can do this by destimulating ourselves to allow for optimal focus and also defining our process. So you are the general manager of your own factory. If you are not self-employed, you're probably used to having a boss tell you what tasks need to be done and when those tasks need to be due by. So you need to get in the habit of assigning specific tasks to yourself and holding yourself accountable to when those tasks will be completed and to what quality so that you can start producing out of your own factory. So with destimulating, this is sort of the biggest takeaway that I'd want you to have from this talk is map out a set time each day where you're working on your game dev. I'm suggesting 2 to 3 hours here. I know if you've got kids, you may only be able to fit in 1 hour at a time, but just do the best you can to carve out time to where you can focus on this. But this is a time block where it's pure uninterrupted focus. You can maybe put in more time on a weekday, but hopefully 2 to 3 hours more time on a weekend, but hopefully 2 to 3 hours on a weekday. This allows your brain to have the space it needs to sort of solely focus in on your game dev process and perform that deep, complex thinking and problem solving that's required to be effective. So going off of that, do not multitask. No notifications should be distracting you on your phone or computer. So throw that phone in do not disturb if you can. We don't want to have a lot of chat notifications popping up on our computer or email notifications, etc. These things will distract you and take you out of that deep state of focus that is, again, really going to help you be effective with your game development. Reduce or eliminate your phone usage entirely. So throw that phone in do not disturb or airplane mode, put it in another room, whatever you have to do to remove that distraction. If you do have kids or a partner that have to reach out to you, if something urgent were to happen, I'm certainly not telling you to not allow them to do that. So I know with at least iPhones, you can put your phone in do not disturb and allow certain individuals to still reach out to you. So that's what I would suggest you do, and just communicate to those select few individuals that this is your game development time, so please have them honor and respect that and only reach out if it's an urgent matter. And if they do love and respect you, they'll support you in that. You can also take some breaks during this time, 5-10 minute quick breaks. I like to call low stim breaks. So go for a quick walk, meditate, stretch, just do little things like that. If you happen to get stuck on a problem, you might even find that that solution will just kind of pop into your head when you walk away for a second. So this is an example of a time block weekly schedule. I've done 2 hours each weekday here and then 8 hours on a weekend day. You may feel like this is something you can't do, and that's totally fine. I'm not saying you necessarily have to jump right into this much time. If you're just starting out with a process like this, you could do just 1 hour on a weekday and maybe a few more hours on a weekend day. This is for you to sort of assess what is the easiest thing that you can do to fit into your life to make this a habit, to where you're sort of eliminating the decision making or deliberation on, hey, when am I going to work on my game development today? It's just like, oh, I always know I do Monday evenings and I always do Tuesday mornings. So it's just kind of second nature, and it makes it a lot easier that way. But going off of that, if you're not a morning person, let's maybe not decide to do it at 5 or 6 a.m. because that's going to be really hard to stick to. If you have kids, maybe you're doing it at 8 or 9 p.m. at night, even if it's just for an hour. So it's really just for you to kind of constantly reassess what's best for you and what you can stick to. So once we've carved out that time for ourselves, we kind of need to tell ourselves, hey, what are we going to do with that time now? This is just a very general scope of a few mechanics or aspects that would go into making a full game, but go ahead and make a development document that's going to just sort of be your overarching outline of the elements that are going to go into your game. If you're just in the prototyping phase, you're probably only going to be focusing on design and mechanics, and that's totally fine. But this process can still help you while you're in the prototyping phase, and once you get out of that prototyping phase, you can start to add in some of these other elements. So I'm going to focus on breaking down, well, this is an example of breaking down a lot of those elements from the previous slide, but let's just focus on design and mechanics for this example. So design and mechanics might be broken out to, this is just certainly not an all-inclusive list, but a few items here, like player movement, gameplay, enemy AI, and level design. You can think about, when you start to break down this part of your game, you can kind of realize, okay, I want my player to be able to run and jump, or we can set certain win conditions with the gameplay, how score is kept, health, etc. And once you start to figure out what's going to go into your game, you can actually break it down a little bit further. And this is when it kind of becomes a specific task. So just focusing on player movement as an example, let's say this is a simple 2D platformer. We've got things like player input, walking and running speed, maybe more advanced mechanics like ledge clings or coyote time. And once you break it down like this, you can start to assign this out to yourself. And I would suggest making a development schedule. I like to do it 1 week just do it as a weekly schedule. So pick 4 to 6 tasks per week. If you do a similar time block schedule to what I showed on the previous slide, that was actually 18 hours. If you're doing about 5 tasks in a week, then that's going to end up being 3.6 hours of tasks, which is actually very generous if you think about it. And you may be a more experienced developer that looks in this and you're like, dude, there's no way it would take me this long to put an input. And you're absolutely right. But the beauty of this process is you have everything outlined for yourself. And once you get ahead, you can just kind of pick and plug in the next thing. And it also kind of helps you prioritize tasks as well based on difficulty. But that's almost another topic that I didn't want to add to this lightning talk. So hopefully you're able to benefit from some of that. This is just a few final tips I have. Leverage add-ons. Add-ons are created by incredibly generous people that have spent days, weeks, sometimes years developing something that you can benefit from. So take advantage of that because that can save you a lot of time. Don't be afraid to hire out work. If you are spending 6 months to a year perfecting your pixel art craft, that's going to be a little bit of a hindrance to getting a game released in a timely manner. So always weigh that sort of cost-benefit analysis, or on developing the skill versus actually just contracting it out. If you do contract out, I would say be a very good director. So be very specific with what you're going to communicate to your freelancers. So for example, in my game, I knew I wanted 4 characters with 8 animation frames, 8 animations, 3 frames per animation, 32 by 48 sprites, and I wanted the aesthetic to be Earthbound-like and very cute. So when I can be that sort of clear to my freelancer, that eliminates a lot of back and forth, which is going to free up time for you to work on other things. Finally, I do have a suggested read if you're interested in some of these topics. Look at Deep Work by Cal Newport. He is a computer science professor at Georgetown, I believe. And this book will elaborate on a lot of the topics I was really only able to just kind of scratch the surface on. But that's all I got for you guys. Thanks a lot.